This is Eddie Law with CrossBonesMMA.com and CrossBonesMMA Radio. We had the privilege of interviewing UFC Bantamweight Anthony Birchak, who takes on Ian Entwistle at UFC on Fox 13 in Phoenix, Arizona on December 13th. Anthony took time out of his busy schedule to speak with CrossBones MMA Radio about his past, UFC 177, and his upcoming bout.
Now, Anthony, for the fans who don't know much about you, where are you from originally?
I'm born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. Actually, I was raised in a town south of Tucson called Sahuarita. Usually, people that don't speak Spanish call it Sarita. So, I've been here for the 28 years of my life. I started in wrestling at a very young age, 5 years old. I got into freestyle wrestling. My uncles were big into wrestling. They were the first state champions for our high school. So, they were my coach growing up through, the first 15 to 18 years of my career. And then once I got into college, that was the first time I was ever not coached by a family member.
So what college did you go to?
I went to William Penn University in Iowa. I also started off here in Arizona at Pima Community College, and they've produced guys like Jamie Varner, Efren Escudero, Drew Fickett, Kobe Ortiz, James Terry. I mean, the list goes. Danny Martinez. The list goes on, dude. I think out of our starting 10, 8 of us now have made it to the UFC or a big show.
Yeah, I'd love to see those local guys. I'm actually located in Phoenix, so love to see local guys get their start and move up to the big shows. So how did you get started in MMA?
So basically, wrestling, man. Like I said, all those guys, got started, and I saw them doing MMA while they were still wrestling in college. It was just kind of a fun little thing for them. And I went to school with Efren Escudero the most. So I got Jamie was a year ahead of me, and he was doing it. I had my brother wrestled with Drew Fickett at Pima, and he was starting into it. So it was like really crazy to me that these guys were voluntarily getting punched in the face and getting their arms trapped in arm bars. I thought it was just nuts. I never thought I would ever want to participate in that. And then, I would be talking to Efren on our away wrestling trips and just kind of ask him about jiu-jitsu and what it was, and he would show me, one or two things here and there. And then kind of after college, me and Efren both went from Pima Community College to Grand Canyon University. My major was media arts and graphic design, and Efren was like, hey man, I know you're good with the camera, and I know you're good with video editing and graphic design and stuff. He's like, would you do this video for me that the Ultimate Fighter wants me to do? It's like a little bio. And I was like, yeah, of course, that'd be cool. So I shot and filmed his whole thing and edited it all, and I kept up with the Ultimate Fighter season that he ended up winning. And then after it, I just started kind of, thinking about it. I said, wrestling doesn't put food on the table. It's not going to, I don't think I'm going to make it to the Olympics. So I kind of started, looking into MMA a bit more. And then when I got back to Tucson, I actually walked into a gym, and it happened to be Drew Fickett's gym. So I started training with Drew, and, the rest is history.
Now, you fought in local Arizona promotions such as the World Fighting Federation, Rage in the Cage, and you last fought for MFC up in Canada. How does fighting for those promotions prepare you for your UFC debut and your UFC career?
Biggest promotion by far that I fought for, as far as audience-wise, was Amazon Force Combat in Manaus, Brazil, and that was my one loss at 145. I think that really solidified the fact that I knew I was supposed to be in front of that many people. I didn't win that fight, but I wasn't nervous by any means. I walked into the arena, it was just so surreal to me. I felt good. It just, if you get a black belt on your back, it's hard to get them off once, and let alone twice. And the second time that he took my back was when he choked me out. So, it was a learning experience. I was young. I was fighting at the wrong weight class, based on the advice of people that didn't have my best interest at hand. So, I think fighting for the WFF showed me, how to fight at home in front of a hometown crowd and kind of diffuse the pressure, I guess. You know how people say, oh, he's fighting at home, it could be either great or terrible, he's got all the pressure on him. I don't see it as that, I used to love wrestling at home, and I think I really thrive off of that hometown energy. There's a lot of good things that come from being around the people that love you and that cheer you on. And I think that's what I learned from those promotions.
Now, technically, on December 13th, that's your UFC debut, but you were supposed to be a part of UFC 177 in Sacramento. Your opponent was supposed to be Joe Soto, but as we now know, he ended up taking on TJ Dillashaw in the title fight when Renan Barão passed out while cutting weight. Now, you were left without an opponent, and you didn't get to fight that night. How weird was that whole experience?
Oh, man, it was such a bizarre situation. It was just, I was on point, on weight. I was heading to the elevator to head down to the lobby, and I see this weird tweet that says, first Henry Cejudo, now Renan Barão. I nominate, Maximum Fighting Champion Anthony Birchak to step up for the world, for the Dillashaw. And I showed Mercedes. I was like, hey, what the hell is this? And as soon as I showed her, Sean Shelby called my phone. And he was like, where you at, stud? And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm running late, sir. He's like, no. He goes, as soon as you get down here, find me ASAP. I need to tell you something. And I was like, I looked at Mercedes like, holy shit, I think they're gonna bump me up. Unfortunately, it was quite the opposite. So he told me, he goes, hey man, I got bad news for you. Renan, fainted in the tub, and we're gonna have to pull Joe Soto up to main event. And I asked him straight up, I was like, you know what? Why, not to overstep my boundaries, I said, but why did he get the call up and not me? And he was like, well, it was even hard to convince the athletic commission to bring him up. We had to, sell him as far as the Bellator champ and top 2 college champ. And, what it really came down to was the fact that I lost a geographic popularity contest. He is from Porterville, which is 2 hours north of Sacramento. So who are you going to put in the main event? A kid from Tucson, Arizona, or the kid from 2 hours north who's going to put some acid in? I think I definitely would have made that fight a little bit more interesting. No offense to Joe Soto. I think it's cool what he did, stepping up on last-minute notice, but that's what we train for. We don't train for, I'm not in it for a T-shirt, bro. I'm in it for the World Championship, and I've had the taste of gold once, and I want it again. You know what I mean? I want to prove that I'm the best 135-pounder in the world. And if they would have asked me, I told Sean Shelby I would have taken that fight in half a heartbeat. And when I look at the fight and I analyzed it, to me it looked like a glorified sparring match. Those two had been training with each other all week long, and then the month prior to that, when Joe Soto fought Carrion Ware, he did his camp at Alpha Male. So, it was comfortable. They were comfortable with each other. And then at the end, Dillashaw put a stamp on it. You know what I'm saying? But to me, I think I would have made it grimy. I would have made TJ, Joe Soto lumped TJ up. You know what I mean? But, I live by the sword, die by the sword, man. If you've seen any of my fights, I don't have a boring fight. So I would have put gas pedal those whole rounds. I was ready to go. And for whatever reason, man, that card was cursed. The production truck caught fire. I didn't get a fight. Scotty Jorgensen didn't want to fight, and they asked me that too. Are you down to fight Scott Jorgensen? And I said absolutely. And then, they asked Scott, and he goes, no, I'm not going to be big enough. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I just think everything happens for a reason. God has a plan for me, and I couldn't be more gracious enough that I'm fighting in Phoenix, Arizona, in front of my hometown crowd.
Yeah, now for those who don't know, after the event, you returned home to Tucson to find that someone had broken into your home and stolen a lot of your belongings, including an MFC ring commemorating your title with MFC. Now, when you came home, when you went in there, what exactly went through your mind? It's got to be a pretty crazy experience.
Well, I had all the luggage, and I was, pulling everything in, and Mercedes went into the house before me. And she was like, you got to be kidding me. And I was like, what's up? And I walked in, and I noticed the TV's not in the living room, and I was like, son of a bitch. So they took everything, man. They took the TVs, the PlayStation, all her jewelry, my championship ring. They took collector's Barbies. They took Top Ramen. They took 4 beers I had. they took a bunch of random shit.
So it sounds like whoever did it knew you'd be gone for a couple of days and took advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to know I'm gone, you know what I mean? Especially in small Tucson now. Everybody knows I'm in the UFC, you know. But the thing is I live in a very confusing neighborhood. You have to know where I live to find my house.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it has to be someone I've had over, and I don't have a lot of people over, which is even more disturbing.
Yeah,
you know, so it's got to be someone that's in my circle, and that really is what pisses me off.
Yeah, that's, I mean, damn, it's rough as hell, man. So let's move on to your fight that's coming up. You know, when the UFC told you you'd be fighting Ian Entwistle on December 13th, what was your first thought?
I was like, man, that name sounds familiar, you know? And I was like, I can't think of who it is. I've had some great matchups so far. Like, if I could just tell you who they were having me match up, I think I match up with everybody very, very well. And I think when they said Ian Entwistle, I was like, I had to Google him, and then I was like, oh, shit. I was like, okay, I know who this kid is, you know what I mean? So I Googled him, and I looked at a couple of his fights, and I was just like, he's just hell-bent and reckless on getting that heel hook, you know what I mean? He's just, and it showed in that Daniel Hooker fight that he would rather take elbows to the face and stay with the heel hook than transition to a better move or a better position. He was just hell-bent on submitting via heel hook.
So what worries you about Ian's game that you have to watch out for in the fight?
I mean, not so much worries me. It's just, I mean, that stupid flying scissor takedown to, you know, he'll run right at you and then dive at your ankle just to hit like a little roll or inverted jiu-jitsu roll to get a heel hook. You know what I mean? It's just so. I mean, I have no respect for a fighter like that, because you're not a fighter. You're just a guy that looks for heel hooks. You know what I mean? And anybody can win by heel hook on any given day, especially, you know, someone like that. It's just, it's crazy. You know, it's going to be a fucking snowball's chance in hell if he beats me. But if he does beat me, it's probably going to be by one of his stupid-ass heel hooks.
So what do you have to do to win this first fight in the UFC?
You know, I got to stay technical. You know, I got a great boxing coach. I got a great, you know, Muay Thai coach. I got a great jiu-jitsu coach. And, you know, I've been wrestling since I was 5 years old, like I said. So I think, you know, I was ready for Joe Soto. Joe Soto's got great takedowns. He wasn't going to take me down. I don't think you're going to take me down with a flying scissor hook. If you don't have good collegiate wrestling, you're not going to take me down. If you're not a D1 All-American, you're not going to take me down. I don't see him outstriking me. I don't see him being as dynamic as I am, and I don't see him lasting cardio-wise past the first round. The guy hasn't been out of the first round because he blows his wad in the first, you know, 2 minutes trying to get that heel hook.
So Ian took to Twitter after learning he was going to fight you and said, quote, "I'm going to run straight through you, believe that." So, end quote. So then you guys went back and forth on Twitter a bit. Now, does that kind of stuff create animosity between you guys? It's not really like you guys really know each other.
Bro, have you ever seen me talk shit on Twitter before? I do it strategically and with purpose. I don't just shit talk. I know I'm already in his head, and you know, my jiu-jitsu coach who coaches in London said this yesterday. He goes, "You want to know why he's so aggressive, hyper aggressive this early in the game? Is because he's pissing his pants right now that you're an elite level wrestler. He's pissing in his pants that you're an elite level wrestler right now." The Brits hate wrestling. Aside from Michael Bisping, who has mediocre to decent wrestling, he's been outclassed by anybody that's been a D2, D3, you know, level wrestler in you know, in the UFC. I mean, if you put him up against any of those guys like Tim Kennedy or you know, Matt Hamill, they ran through him, you know. And so when he says that he's going to run straight through me, and with the limited tools in his tool bag that he has, I just let him, you know, blow his hot air wherever he wants to.
So you're going to be fighting in Phoenix, Arizona, your backyard. Ian's coming from the UK. Will that be an advantage for you in the fight?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's an advantage. I don't know if it's a disadvantage. I believe in scientific fact. He's training at 29 feet above sea level. Okay? I'm training at 3,000 to 5,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level when I start doing my elevation training. Okay? So when he comes over here, he's going to feel a little bit of that 2,000 feet. He fought in New Zealand, which is another place that's at sea level. So I know when we fight in Albuquerque, it's only about 2,000 more feet than Tucson. We feel it. So if he's coming over from England to Phoenix, he's going to feel it, especially with the type of output and gas tank that I have.
So what message do you have for your opponent? Come that you're going to take on at UFC on Fox 13.
What message do I have for Ian Entwistle? Take a wrestling class, please.
All right. So, Anthony, you got any shout-outs or people you want to thank before we finish this interview up?
Yeah, man, I want to thank my sponsors, Cauliflower Culture, Oral IV, Mentum Eyewear, Zyphos Training and Tactical. I got to thank Big Caesar Boxing, Charles Caraway for getting my hands right. I got to thank my professor, Sean Huff, and Demetrius Ramos for getting my jiu-jitsu right. Rise Combat, I'm out there with Chris Carriasso and those dudes. I got great training partners. I got to thank Mercedes White at Lutha Elite Sports Management. And Sopalicious, Sopalicious.com, DC Mouth Guards, and our newest partnership with F3 Foods, which is a meal prep pen to keep my plan to get my my diet and eating right.
Yeah, so how do people get a hold of you on social media?
If you guys could follow me on Twitter at @BirchakMMA, same thing, Instagram at @BirchakMMA, and then go like my fan page, Facebook.com/Anthony Birchak. I'll be doing giveaways up until the fight. I may even give a ticket away or two, so go like the fan page and participate in any of the giveaways I got coming up.
All right, Anthony, thanks for your time, and good luck on December 13th.
All right, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Anthony Birchak, ladies and gentlemen, UFC Bantamweight, fighting in the prelims of UFC on Fox 13th on December 13th in Phoenix, Arizona. Tickets go on sale on October 10th.